Hi, my name is Nathan Kwok, and I am the General Manager for Sports for Ottawa. Since 1982, we've been widely recognized as the region's premier spot for fitting footwear, and I've been tasked with coming up with a video to give you a list of tips and tricks that you should implement before buying your next pair of running shoes. So the first question we get asked often enough is what the best running shoe is, and the reason I want to address this is because there is this firm belief that there is a superior brand out there that is going to make you a better runner, and that just isn't the case. When it comes down to most of the major athletic brands out there, so Adidas, Nike, New Balance, Saucony, Brooks, all these brands, there is no real better or worse when it comes down to it. In fact, a lot of the preference is going to be subjective. Now, there are certain brands like maybe Hoka that have features that are very unique to them that can be beneficial to certain runners, but this by no means indicates that this is the better brand in that sense. Kind of like food, we all have our own individual tastes. So when it comes to running shoes, don't close your mind off to anything, and be wary of reviews that you read. Reviews are always a good way to understand what the shoe might be like, but remember that this is that reviewer's subjective experience. Okay, so now we understand that there's no one brand that's better than the rest, but where do we go from here? What qualities make up a good high mileage running shoe? Well, it's not quite so easy. When it comes down to running shoes, there are a couple different specs we need to think about. The first is going to be stack height. The second is going to be offset. Let me explain. Stack height is effectively the thickness of the cushioning system or the buffer between your foot and the ground. There are two stack specs that we'd like to keep in mind. The heel stack, which is the thickness of the heel region, and then the forefoot stack. Now, the difference between these two thicknesses is the drop or offset of the shoe. And this is going to be something that you need to consider when it comes to different foot conditions you may have. So people with Achilles tendon issues or very, very tight calves may opt for a higher offset shoe, or those that are experiencing more forefoot related issues may opt for something lower to distribute the pressure more evenly across the base of the foot. When it comes down to the shoes that are best suited for high mileage, the line gets a little bit blurry with the popularity in minimalist footwear as well as transitional minimalist footwear. What a minimalist shoe is essentially a shoe that has low stack at the heel, low stack at the forefoot, lots of flexibility all the way through the body, and a very, very low differential between the two stack heights. This basically puts the foot a lot closer to the ground and gives you a little bit more of a barefoot feel. Now, this kind of running shoe is not for everybody, so this is not what we're going to be referring to when it comes to high mileage shoes for the everyday trainer. Instead, what we're going to opt for is something a little bit more cushion focused and a little bit more structured, just to be safe, on the safe side of things. Typically, the higher the stack the shoe has, the more cushioning it's going to have. So now that we've got all the technical shoe jargon out of the way, the next thing we're going to want to pay attention to is the fit of the shoe. And I think that this would probably be one of the most important factors when it comes to maintaining foot health, as well as your general comfort throughout your training sessions. Now, when it comes to a proper fit for a shoe, we are often looking for a half finger space or at least a small bit of space between your end of the toe and the end of the shoe. You never want your toes pressed up against the toe cap because as your foot swells and your foot expands, this could put a lot of undue pressure on the nail and the toe joint. Another thing we need to be wary about is tightness from the sides. And a lot of people, especially those that have played cleated sports like soccer or people that have been involved in skating, are very accustomed to tight fit and sometimes associate that tightness with support. And this is not necessarily something we want to do when it comes to running shoes. When it comes to runners, the shoe design is optimized for linear motion only. So excessive tightness on the side does nothing for stabilizing our ankles or our feet. What we want to do is actually have a snug but slightly relaxed fit around the forefoot especially, so that the foot can expand with the swelling that occurs typically on the course of a long run. Another thing to consider is that your shoe size will fluctuate depending on the shoe model and the shoe brand that you choose to go with. So you can expect a deviation of about a half size up or down depending on the shoe. This is totally normal. One factor that may impact the size you decide to go with your shoes is the shoe's last. So think of the shoe's last as the mold that dictates the dimensions and shapes of the shoe, and it also indicates what kind of fit properties we can expect. Another upside of coming into the store to get your shoes fit is the fact that you actually get to try the shoe on your foot. And I can't overstate how important this is. There's a lot of hype and a lot of marketing jargon that goes into the marketing of footwear on a lot of these companies' websites, and very little of the information provided is actually pertinent to the actual process of understanding what that shoe is going to be like. Everyone's trying to hype up their technology as the best, and the only way you're going to know is by trying it on yourself. So I guess the last recommendation I would make is to have a either trained fitting specialist or healthcare practitioner perform a gait assessment on you. And this is basically going to assess the level of pronation or amount of pronation that occurs throughout your walking or running gait. Pronation in itself is not actually something that is bad, despite what many people think, and it's actually the body's natural mechanism for dissipating force. Think of it as like a rolling motion, or kind of like a boxer rolling with a punch. Without it, there's a lot of impact that would be kind of sustained at the point of contact, which is typically either the heel or the forefoot, depending on the running style. Running shoe companies have designed different levels of support to address the different levels of pronation that somebody can experience. Now, while this is not necessarily true in all cases, overpronation, which is an excessive inward roll of the ankle, can sometimes result in discomfort or sometimes injury in some cases. Now, the reason why it's important to get this assessment done is that these supportive properties, while they sound good on paper, are not good for people that do not overpronate. In some cases, you can experience something called overcorrection, which is when the shoe provides too much support and forces the ankle outward into a supinated position. And this can also cause problems for people. So getting the assessment done will be one crucial step in determining what level of support is best for you.